Hello, everyone. I'm JEAN-CLAUDE at Beyond Mystic, and welcome to tonight's special report. This is the Eclipse Madness Decode. With me tonight, of course, is the Woo of Dude, Mr. Woo Woo Dude. You can find him at woowoodude.com. Richard, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Good. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Happy to have you on. Next, also, please join me in welcoming JSNIP4, my friend Joe. He's the travel hunter, treasure hunter extraordinaire and plane crash survivor, Mr. Joe. Welcome back to the show. How are you, Joe?
Good.
Okay, he's good. You sound like Ace Ventura. Good. Next up, of course, is Jenny Constantine. You can find her at jennyconstantine.com and also here on her Patreon at patreon.com. Jenny, welcome back to the show. How are you, Jenny?
Oh, fine. Thank you. Hey, what's up, everyone?
Excited to have you on. And last but not least, of course, Meg. You can find her here on the Academy at beyondmystic.academy, where astrology level 2 is coming up here very, very soon. So stay tuned for that. And you can, of course, find her on the consultations page also here on beyondmystic.net. Meg, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Doing very well, feeling the vibes. I'm in the Niagara region where the eclipse is going to be 100% visible. So I'm super, super excited and very happy to be here with all you guys.
So you are located right now where I think in Canada, you're the only state of emergency declared by municipality, if I'm correct. So you're right smack in the middle of things. Well, welcome, Meg. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here on the live interactive show. We are triple casting on Twitter, on YouTube, and also on Rumble. We're going to spend about 10 minutes or so on YouTube, spending time with you folks here. And then we'll invite you to please come and join us here on Rumble for the no holds barred conversation. But we have about 10 minutes here, and I'll bring the link down in live chat now. So if you want to make that transition, you can do so now on Rumble. But I'll remind you here in a few minutes. Guys, first of all, a big thank you for accepting the invitation. I wanted to have this video tonight, the eve of the eclipse, to kind of recap everything we've done already in the last month. A lot of ink has already been spilled on this topic. We've listened to many YouTubers, many researchers, and many tinfoil hatters, and also the mainstream media. And it's becoming this big thing, and it's very convoluted, and it's causing a lot of stress in our community in many different ways. And I thought, why don't I bring up a panel together? Let's have a conversation. Let's look at some of these conspiracies. Let's look at some of the facts and try to cool down and calm down here and find a baseline of information here so that together we can all navigate this for our highest good. So that's the intention for the show here tonight. If you don't know what we're talking about, yes, we're talking about this solar eclipse that's going to be happening across North America here to the path of totality tomorrow on April 8th. And before we do that, before we get too far into some of these conspiracy theories and some of the research our guests are bringing forward tonight, I want to look at the astrology itself. That's where all of this begins. Meg, I'm going to bring up your chart here for the eclipse. And if you want to share with the audience members who haven't listened to this topic here for the last month, maybe spend the next 2 minutes here explaining what's going on and why this one is different from the others and why it's important to track here. Meg.
Oh my goodness. Well, there's so much I can possibly say, and we've been talking about it a lot on the recent content here on Beyond Mystic. We have eclipses twice a year. We have eclipse seasons, and they are the times in astrology. They're the biggest astrological events of major life changes, destiny, fate, energetic doors closing and new ones opening. But this is not a normal eclipse by any means, because it is the Great North American Eclipse, of course, which we haven't had for, I think it's like 400 or 500 years. It only happens that often. And it's going to be, the path of totality going through Mexico, the US, and Canada. So that in itself is very rare. But what's also rare is this is our first eclipse season with Pluto in Aquarius, which we have not had for over 240 years. Every time we have Pluto in Aquarius throughout history, freedom and independence and we the people end up winning whatever situations are going on. The last time we had Pluto in Aquarius was the French Revolution, the American independence. So we've got Pluto at 1 degree Aquarius, critical degree, with this new moon solar eclipse in Aries, the other sign that rules freedom, independence, bravery, and not taking any bullshit. I keep hearing Spirit say that to me lately. This is the eclipse where people are not going to take the bullshit anymore of what's been going on. And, people en masse, even more people waking up way more normies waking up than already have been. And this eclipse is going to set the tone for the whole next year of many countries throughout the world, specifically Canada, because Canada's rising sign is exactly conjunct this eclipse, is going to step into more freedom and independence, but many countries all over the world and many more people stepping into, stepping out of the matrix and waking up. So there's so much to say with this eclipse, but basically it's going to bring way more people waking up, really valuing freedom and independence. And where I am right now, as I said earlier, is in the Niagara region, which is going to be the first area of Canada that the path of totality hits. And today I didn't look at any social media. I didn't look at any conspiracies or any of the fear porn online. And I got to say, I feel amazing today. The land feels amazing here, and the energy actually feels extremely positive, and like there's a liberation coming out of the ground that's being seeded. So I feel like there's so much positive energy that this eclipse is going to bring to North America, even though there's a lot of negative things that it seems like may happen, or it's like the end of the world. It's not really resonating with me, that train of thought at the moment. It feels really good here.
Well, let me ask you, Meg, then, as you're first on the screen, if I were to ask you the barometer right now, a lot of people are suggesting that there's positive things that could come out of this eclipse, including perhaps memory, DNA upgrades, some difficulty. We'll get into that on the Rumble show. I don't want to get into too much details, but if you were to say this eclipse tomorrow, is it more positive or more negative for humanity? Where would you split that?
Well, I do believe that there's two timelines that are playing out at this time. So I think for those of us that are on kind of the higher timeline, it's going to be extremely positive, more positive than we can even imagine, because we've already stepped into that value of freedom, that value of independence.
Right.
But for those who have not yet stepped into that higher timeline, I think it's going to be very difficult until they do so. And, Aries does rule war and world war and conflict. And I think that's going to be one of the things that the dark arts people, as I like to call them, are going to try to really ramp up. Like, there's going to be a World War III and everybody has to go fight. But, we're already in a World War III, in my personal opinion. We've already been in a spiritual war and a psychological war. So all these fears around a war, it's like we're already in one. We're already battling one. So, yeah, I think it depends what timeline you're on.
Okay. Very good. I appreciate that. Cliff Eyes in the chat. Welcome, sir. He says, buckle up, buttercup. Yes, indeed. And thank you, folks. We're already crossing the 10,000 live mark here tonight on Rumble. And we have quite a few thousand here on YouTube and also on Twitter. So quite the show. It's going to be exciting. Richard, let me bring you on. Just before we started on the live, too, you accepted the invitation to come here tonight, too. You're also of the opinion that there's a lot of anxiety, angst, stress about all of this stuff, and for good reason. I mean, we've seen the mainstream news and a lot of perhaps detractors bring out a lot of negative energy around this eclipse. But we also understand that, as Meg was saying here, humans are all in a different path of their own self-mastery, and depending on where they are on their healing process and where they fall geographically too, here there's going to be a variety of effects here moving into the week and moving into the rest of the year here, as Cliff High is suggesting also on his latest Substack. So where are you right now in terms of dealing with the energy? We're already feeling the edge of this eclipse. The energy has been hitting us already for a month. For those of us who are very sensitive, in the last week already, things are hyping up as we're seeing. How are you dealing with the energy, and what are you seeing as you're doing also some client calls on woowoo.com? Richard?
Well, I'm really not that concerned about tomorrow. All right. I'm more concerned that it's going forward, and it's a change. A lot of people are wondering if they're going to get downloads, and I kind of smile at it, that what you've truly got to understand, we as a human species, we're all evolving right now. You don't have a choice. We're evolving. Either you adapt to this or not. And I'll give you a great analogy. I didn't think I was going to be able to do the show, all right, because we got whaled with snow up here. And all the telephone poles got snapped in half and everything. Going across the news, now think about what I'm saying. Coming across the news, they're saying that we probably won't have electricity for 30 to 40 days. Where I am, I go, well, all right. You know, my generator's doing its thing and stuff. And I got electricity back in 5 days. Now, a lot of you people that are out there going, 5 days without electricity, that's nothing. That's a walk in the park. But everybody was so consumed, and the newbies that have moved up here where I am, okay, it's their first time, you know, and they're like, oh my God, you know, the world's coming to an end. Nah, we just hang out here. We walk around, see the deer looking at us, and, you know, what do? Just calm your horses down. And this is a great change for all of us. Now, Joe and I, and you, JC, we've been going through this 3 years ago with the Jonah, okay, that they yelled at me about, and I made fun of it, okay, and then, you know, the guy getting swallowed by the whale, and that was all part of the 222, you know, and they said, please follow this and have an understanding, and we didn't know where it was all leading, but now it is. And then a month ago, Joe and I were doing a YouTube, and I kept mumbling because Spirit kept talking through me, and they kept saying that, and I was saying this out loud, pay attention to Noah's timeline. I'm going, for gosh sake, I'm just getting used to this other guy. Now you got me watching this, but what was coming out of my mouth was, it's the new change. It's for the whole world. And Noah had to go through, as they talked about, an incredible storm, but to create a new world. This has to happen. All right. All the roots of the tree of evil, everything has got to be exposed, and it is being exposed. It has to, because we have to come out of that paradigm and go forward. And that's what this is all about. Okay. Adapt with this. Okay. And have the understanding. Don't run around like I saw the newbies up here panicking. It's like, dude, okay. So it's a time for you to get a generator on the next one. Okay. Pay attention. But yeah, I'm, you know, the only thing that I'm going to say about the eclipse end of it is that it's going to go right over my house. Okay. I'm like the last one to get hit. And will I be staring at it with the little glasses? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because what Meg said is correct. We are at war. So everybody's out there buying all these little glasses and with the tiny little hole in it, and they're all made where? Okay. So I don't have to say where, we're all understanding, right? What I'm going to do is basically, you're out there in the energy of this. Okay. I will be videoing it with my phone. Right? And then you can look at it on a phone, and not just that, possibly video things that you might not catch with the eyes.
That too, yeah.
Yeah. So I only got 2 left.
Can I ask you, Richard, also, and I think I'll be after you, actually. I'm a little bit higher northeast of you, so I'll be probably the last one of the crew here, or Meg too, between that. Can I ask you, though, do you feel that we're, I was listening to something the other day, or reading, I think it was on Cliff I's Substack, where we're actually ending this initiation phase that we were in, and we're now getting into this new beginning. You said we're at war. Do you see that the eclipse might be a domino effect or a trigger effect here to bring all of this in a big way into the open for the rest of the normies here? Where would you peg that?
Yeah. You know, some things have come up in some readings with people, and we brought them up on the last show. About New York City and things like that. So just about everybody who's watching this that comes to your channel, these people are very, very good psychics, and they feel it or they wouldn't be here. So understand their abilities are going to continue to climb. Now, let's just talk about a quick thing. Okay. When I came out and said, Spirit had said that, by the way, Babylon is hidden within New York City, I went, what? right? And that was during a reading. And then that woman went out, and I said, it's hidden within the dirty water. And here I am with Snippy, and he says, my parents lived in Babylon. I go, what? Okay. And the night that she went out there and found that, she sent it back to me on the front page where dismembered bodies found in Babylon. Instantly, I said, that's a separation of humans. Okay. The big divide. All right. Now you have an earthquake that happened, right? Yeah. Where did it happen? Do you know where it happened? Lebanon. Watch what happens in Lebanon. Now,
wasn't it that
now
one of Trump's golf courses too?
Oh yeah. And the great part about it rumbled right into New York.
Yeah.
Okay, but it was a 4-8, right? When's the eclipse?
Right.
Oh, that's a coincidence there, isn't it, mighty boy?
Right.
Right. And then what did I say about the Statue of Liberty? Okay, on that show, I said that was considered the great harlot, and it gets hit with a what? Lightning bolt.
Yeah.
Okay, so the higher powers are giving us these things, but can you read them?
Right.
Are we going to go through some difficult times? Absolutely. We're going to go through a storm.
Yeah.
But when you come out of the backside of it, the whole world changes. It's an incredible time, but we just got to be smart. You know, if you're in the middle of certain cities that are already having issues, understand your issues are going to grow. Right? So be smart, you know, be proactive, and be like the willow tree and be able to bend, you know, and adjust through this. It's an exciting time. It really is.
I love it. Thank you, Richard. I appreciate that. Meg, no, not Meg, Jenny, let me ask you about this war thing. Like, you've been on this path for a long time. You understand the situation here. And it's funny because you and I were talking about this years ago, and to some extent, we were kind of black sheep in many ways from our family and from our friends. And now we're seeing this, as we're seeing now in the live chat, a lot of people here too. But generally speaking, we have old friends and old acquaintances that had stepped away, now starting to come back and gravitate back to this field of information. For some reason, they're resonating with it, they're understanding it, they're seeing it. They might not be able to articulate it as well as the people on the screen now, but they know something's different or that something changed. Let me ask you about that. In your personal readings, the work you're doing now too, where are we in this timeline here of this breaking out into the open, the war we're talking about, but this initiation and beginning phase of this new world here that is before us? How would you set the stage for the audience?
So I would say something that I've noticed personally is we've all undergone a lot of polarization up till this point. So the 2016 election is something we can all collectively recall polarized people in a way that we hadn't really seen in terms of, you know, political ideology and all of the psyops that went into that campaign to put people in their own respective silos. So everybody then identified themselves with some kind of ideology. And then what we saw when the election was stolen and rigged in front of the world, and we are now almost completing an entire fraudulent administration reign, I have noticed that we are not as polarized as we are. We seem to have swung. That pendulum has swung, and I see us kind of settling somewhere in the middle. And I'm grateful for that, because I think that that was something I personally didn't even expect. Oh, hi, Heidi. Heidi's in the house, y'all. I do have a note from her that I'd like to just tag on to the end of my commentary here. But
sure.
The neutrality, the center that I think people now through sort of going through the alchemy of this process, this awakening, people realize that maybe to be somewhere in center is how the most amount of people get through this, instead of being so extreme to the right or so extreme to the left. So that's just something that I've personally noticed, is people are a lot more comfortable being kind of center and not neutral in the sense that, oh, anything goes, not passive, but our understanding seems to have overcome our initial instinct, which is to polarize ourselves a lot, to identify with a group and, you know, us versus them, left versus right. So we finally settled here in the middle. And I say right in time. Like, I think we settled somewhere in the middle just in time to collectively, you know, prepare or, you know, whatever we have to do to move forward. But what I did want to say in Western, so depending on what system of astrology you study, and that is a very personal decision for people. I know people that are, you know, Western experts such as yourselves. And then, you know, we have the Vedic experts as well. And just me personally, I learned on the Vedic system. And in the Vedic system, this eclipse is in Pisces. And so I guarantee you we can find all across the board reasons, you know, to support the eclipse in Aries and reasons to support the eclipse in Pisces. But what Heidi wanted to sort of say here, because she's the Vedic astrologer, there's a lot of boats, a lot of issues with the boats, and also a lot. So in the Pisces is the water and you know, another thing to consider, we are in the year of the dragon and the Chinese zodiac, and so when you mix dragons and you mix the water element, we're talking about a lot of sub-oceanic, sort of submerged oceanic warfare. So a lot of things happening in the water, a lot of things going on with the water, the subterranean water, you know, the tunnels, and a lot of these water, these channels that are not open or accessible to the public, but they have been utilized and monopolized by the cabal for some time to be able to, like, utilize them for the various purposes. But I know we're supposed to kind of keep it clean first 10 minutes. Sorry, y'all. But I'm sorry.
That election stuff was just on the edge there, Jenny.
I'm done. I'm sorry. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, Jenny. I appreciate that. And I love what you were saying, Jenny, about the I guess the pendulum is swinging and the consciousness is moving, even though the mainstream news is doubling down on all the woke shit. We're seeing that, but people are just not having it. It goes back to what Meg was saying at the beginning of the show. It's like, no more BS. Everybody's like, yeah, we're done with that. Joe, with that energy of the we're done with here too, like, where are you right now with everything that you and I have been talking about, researching, looking at all this from different angles here for the last month or so? What's about to happen here? How are you dealing with the energies, and what do you think is coming up here? Let's look at this particular week now, just generally speaking, and then we'll get a little bit further in to the war effort for the rest of the year once we get to the Rumble show. So just where do you feel right now? Where are we at with all of this, Joe?
Well, it's interesting. We had another boat in New York almost crash.
Yeah.
Lost power.
Yeah.
And it came back. You know, it was a big boat, another cargo boat, container ship. So yeah, the water thing she said is definitely happening big time. And then there was one before that. What's that?
That was all Heidi. Like, Heidi's watching right now and she's texting me.
Heidi, come back with your Vedic astrology.
I have to
Where's
find
that Steven clip?
I think I still have that song somewhere on my YouTube. Yeah, this is the one here in New York City Harbor.
But there was 3, because there was one that actually did hit
in
something
Oklahoma?
in a smaller,
Oklahoma?
somewhere, and it didn't do anything, but it still was like
an
event, you know. So it's like, all this stuff. You know, again, tomorrow's 4/8. There's all this stuff about 4/8. You know, I'm waiting to see if this plane crash thing with Trump 4/8. I'm going, man, maybe, you know, maybe not. But I mean, it's weird because as I sit here, and it's like, I don't feel like scared, alarmed, worried. Even though I know some shit's gonna be happening, and it's just weird because it's almost like I can sense after all this shit is over with, out in the future a little ways, well, not or something floating around here. Like, that's gonna be one epic time to be around. Everything's gonna change so awesome. So it's like I almost can feel that, even though we got some shit to deal with. So it's like, yeah, it's coming. We're gonna get through that mud, but I'm already feeling that to an extent. So it's kind of weird. I never really had anything like that happen. So it's kind of a weird place to be sitting. Like, okay, I know there's some things gonna, you know, this is the end of the deep state. They're not just going to go quietly. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to go quietly.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm just, yeah, there's gonna be some stuff going down, but I'm just, for whatever reason, I'm going, yeah, just get through it. Like we talked about, having the three things: the silver, the crypto, the cash, you know, the kind of bob and weave as we, you know, get through some things. But I'm, you know, I don't know. I know there's stuff coming, but I just feel like it's just a speed bump. It may be some big stuff, but it's still just a speed bump when you really look at the, you know, the farther view out to get to where, you know, the promised land, so to speak, that I believe is coming, and it'll be here sooner than you think, you know?
I was having the same conversation with Sarah the other night, like again in preparation for this show, but also to try to get my head around what the hell's happening really. Like the mainstream news is telling this and that, and then oh no, it's just conspiracy theories. But then the mainstream news come out and they're declaring more states of emergencies everywhere. So it's kind of like, well, who do you believe? What the hell's going on? They're talking about a mass casualty event. They're talking about weird stuff where the moon could decide to finally follow the sun, and then we'll have 3 days of darkness or 10 days of darkness as opposed to just a couple of minutes. So there's a lot of weird stuff. We're going to get into some of these conspiracies here on the second part of the show on Rumble. But I'm with you, Joe. It kind of feels weird because I'm looking at it, but part of me says, yeah, but that's not really what we're looking at. What we're looking at is more the summer and the fall, when things really, really start being out in the open for this war here. Whether we see the government breakdowns, the financial breakdowns, and perhaps the population breakdown at some point here too, because here in Canada, we're just seeing this weekend now the farmers again start mobilizing after Trudeau introduced this new carbon tax on April 1st. So all of this is a big, how do you say it, tinderbox, I guess, and it's about to get lit. And I think this week is interesting, but at the same time, it's nothing compared to perhaps what's going to be here in the summer. So we're going to look at all of that, all of these angles, guys, tonight. We're going to try to decode this as best as we can. We hope this introduction gave you enough here of points of reference here to follow us for the rest of the conversation. Let me bring that link again down, guys. If you're on YouTube now, please do come and join us here on Rumble for the remaining part of the conversation. So I'll say good night to all of you on YouTube, and we'll see you soon here on the Rumble feed. Yes.